I don't think there's anything wrong that Donald Trump has done that they're just like, yeah, I don't agree with that, but I don't think it's that huge of a deal. No, it's like everything he does is a huge deal. Everything, like if Donald Trump were to unalive someone, they would make the same huge deal out of that as if Donald Trump were to, I don't know, just say something mean. Like they treat him with the same level of importance. And it's utterly ridiculous. And so what I liked about Rob Noerr going on this panel, is that he didn't take shit from anybody. He told him straight to his face, no, fuck off. I don't give a shit. Why should I give a shit? And it was glorious to see Rob Noerr telling these people to their faces, no, fuck off. It was great. So I want to share that with you. This was on the Raging Tomatoes channel, by the way.
Moved to the left, and the left just went off a cliff. So I'm like just slightly left of center is where I am. Okay, so I can speak objectively pretty much to all these guys. And I'm going to say this. I can criticize all of them. It's funny how people try to make it seem like they're trying to divide us and make it seem like you're either for Trump and you're against Biden, you're for Biden and you're against Trump. And it's the old divide and conquer, when in reality, if you go far enough to the left or far enough to the right, it's not linear. It's actually more like a horseshoe or circular. They meet around each other. So the reality is, look, Trump is corrupt in his own way with his Bitcoin, the taking of this Qatari airplane. Everybody knows Trump is, look what he's doing with this Bitcoin dinner. Here's how I can tell you he's corrupt, because I wouldn't do half the shit he's doing, and I don't consider myself the greatest virtue, but I know enough that I wouldn't want to walk down the rabbit holes he's going down when it comes to conflict of interest. And the same is true of Biden. So in my opinion, I can criticize both of them. They're both old, senile, old farts. They're both...
Hello, Johnny
Trump has dementia himself. Half the time he's done
guys and gals. Is that American enough?
So the reality is both these guys are too old to be president, in my opinion. I don't think you should be over 75 and should be president. There should be an age limit of 75. Both these guys are just, Trump in particular. First of all, here's what he's doing. You want me to criticize him? Basically, here's what he's doing with his tariffs. He's trying to raise money on his tariffs, which is basically an import tax, a regressive one at that, because it affects everybody, the most poor people, because prices are going to go up. And he's trying to offset that with his $1 trillion tax cut. So all he's doing is a wealth transfer from the poor to the wealthy. And why did people think that Trump, who's a billionaire, born with a gold spoon up his rear end, was going to care about you or me or anybody else? He doesn't. All Trump cares about is himself. Biden was the same way. Both these guys are just old farts. They're both too old to be president. And I can criticize both of them. They're both fucking corrupt, in my opinion, and both equally. Here's what I used to say.
Listen, it's fair. If you don't like Biden or Trump, okay, that's fair. But I disagree that they're both equally corrupt. I think one is more than the other. And the more is obviously Biden. Like there's more, like the rumblings and stuff going on about him, and then all the things that are uncovered in the emails and the things that he was even said in the open, I think are far more corrupt than anything Trump's done. And if Trump was as corrupt as Joe Biden, how come they couldn't find anything as corrupt as Biden? They had to trump up a lot of charges just to find Trump on anything.
Trump's corrupt and Biden's corrupt. They're just corrupt slightly differently.
Again, I'm not saying that, Trump's an angel or he's perfect or anything, but come on. I think that's objectively not true, that they're equally as corrupt.
But you know what? They're all just about money. All these guys are just about, first of all, with these tariffs, I'm going to make this point. How many people, my last point. How many people in his administration do you think, right before he started moving these tariffs around and manipulating Wall Street,
thank you very much, Single Dads Club.
He told,
thanks, cool, enjoy your content. Thank you very much,
tariffs today.
Much
I'm going
to
come down hard on the tariffs. So all these people were shorting the market. They're putting in puts, calls, and shit. His inner circle is making a shitload of money off this insider trading shit. And everybody's thinking, just let it slide, because everybody's got their heads up their ass. And I'm going to remind you people, 3-4 years from now, when the deficit $50 trillion fucking dollars, you're going to remember exactly what I said. And you're going to say, yeah, don't forget, Trump was the first guy. He was the one that shut down the economy during COVID, and we should have never shut the economy down during COVID.
Let's not say those.
Okay. I mean, it's just prattle. Just, yeah, well, both of them are bad. Okay, yeah, whatever. And then I think I talked about this before about the whole shutting down of the economy. Like, Trump was fucked if he did and fucked if he didn't. If he didn't shut down the economy, then they would have said, oh my gosh, because of Trump, he didn't shut down the economy. He led to all of these deaths. He killed grandma. It was Trump. He has blood on his hands. And then, he did shut down the economy. And then it's like, whoa, you crashed the economy. What the hell? And then the Democrats use that against him. By the way, it was Trump that shut down the economy, not Biden. When you try to bring up how Democrats didn't want to reopen the economy and regain control and hold on to control and stuff. Then they go like, well, it was Donald Trump that shut down the economy. It's like he's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't.
All right. Hold on.
First graduate of the Rob Noerr Gish Gallup Academy.
Yeah,
really.
I actually say shit.
Rob actually makes
Ryan
points.
and Soypill, you got 5 minutes in the bag. And to the chat, you can revive them. You can revive them with the same dollar amount going the other way. So I've started your timer. You got 5 minutes as of now. Spicoli, just remember your words that you use here. We have to be gentle with which words we use, like that certain shot thing that we want to talk about, right? We got to talk about it in very particular ways. Okay, so if anybody wants to
Can I
answer to all of those million things, you're welcome.
Not. All right, Spicoli, let me say this in general. Like, I think you fundamentally misunderstand what the point that I'm trying to make is. First, let me do something. You're right about Trump's meme coin. It's absolutely bullshit. You're right about Trump's massive spending. He was one of the biggest spenders. He spent more, outpacing even before the pandemic. Obama in the 8 years of Obama. It's things that we should legitimately criticize about Trump. And it infuriates me that some of Trump's best supporters refuse to criticize him, especially because I don't think Trump's an ideologue. I think Trump's someone who basically wants to be liked and seen as a compromiser. And so, unlike most politicians, he's actually willing to be malleable when he sees his own constituents start to rail against
That's
something.
true.
Remember the whole bump stock thing? First, he was like, yeah, bump stocks after the Vegas shooting. He's like, bump stocks suck. Let's get rid of them. And then he saw how sort of rabid it pissed off his base and was like, whoa. So you make a bunch.
Or even the jab. Remember remember when he was like talking about, well, I still think the jab was a good thing. And everyone, Trump supporters gave him backlash for it. And then he doesn't talk about it anymore. He doesn't talk about it anymore because I think he knows like, oh, not a good idea to talk about the jab. Maybe the people don't like it. I don't know. I still think it was a great idea, but hey, Donald Trump is absolutely malleable.
A bunch of criticisms about Trump. But here's the thing. The entire point of what I'm suggesting, I would disagree with you on some of this stuff. You said a lot there, so I don't know if we're going to go through each specific thing. But in general, a lot of the criticisms you have, I share as criticisms of Trump, particularly like the meme coin shit, the spending. Like, yeah, it's horseshit. Absolutely should be mocked, right? Absolutely should be called out. But my entire point of this is, if you're being honest that you're criticizing Biden and think that he's shit and you think they're equally shit, I welcome your criticisms. I actually do. I think criticism of Trump is healthy, and that we specifically that are supporters of Trump should welcome those criticisms from people that are good faith, right? Mm-hmm. So, for example, you want to talk about Qatar. Let me ask you a question real quick. Please don't drag the answer out. You say that it was corrupt for Trump to take this Qatari airplane. Did you also think it was corrupt when Qatar donated $1 million that wasn't disclosed by Hillary when she was Secretary of State to the Clinton Foundation? Did you find that to be corrupt?
Yeah, of course. I think the Clinton administration I think the Clinton fund is just another pay-for-play bullshit thing. Of course, it's all corrupt. Of course,
okay.
At that point.
So then
they're all cashing in.
Okay, so then the point is, if you're willing to call out corruption as you see it on either side, then I don't have a problem with it. If you were someone that came on here and said, well, I didn't know about the Hillary thing, and there may have been explanations, and it's not as big of a deal as what Trump did, and you didn't focus on that when it was occurring, when it became news that Hillary did this, but now you want to make it a big deal, I would tell you to kiss my ass. That's the point of the prompt that I'm saying. The people that want to cover up the abuses, the corruption on each of these specific issues that was just as bad, if not worse, from prior administration, particularly Democrat administrations, are bad faith. They don't really care about these issues. I'll give you an example. I hear Democrats rail about kids in cages under Donald Trump in his first term.
Yeah,
Kamala Harris and Joe Biden said that it was a human rights abuse that there would be any kids in cages. And yet, within 3 months of the Biden administration, I think it was 3 months, there were more than 2 times more kids in cages. Where was AOC? Was she taking photo ops, crying outside the cages? No, all of a sudden, dem kids in cages didn't matter. F dem kids, they deserve to be in the cages. So why would I listen to now if people want to talk about kids in cages again under Trump when they were silent about it for 4 years? Those people could kiss my ass. That's the point I'm making. So Spicoli, I'd be happy to talk to you anytime about legitimate criticisms you have of Trump, because based on what you've said, if I take it at face value, you're willing to criticize the other side when they do these sorts of things as well. And so we can have a discussion. But the point of my prompt isn't people like you.
Wait, let me make a point. I'm not looking at it from which side I'm on or who I agree with. I'm looking at it if they're doing it wrong and I don't agree with what they're doing wrong. I don't care if they're Democrat, Republican, right wing, or left wing. To me, if you're doing something corrupt, it's like a guy, an umpire in a baseball game. He's calling strikes, right? And he's going to look at the strike zone, and he doesn't care whether it's the Yankees, the Dodgers. He doesn't give a shit what teams. He's not favoring a team. He's just looking at the strike zone. And if the guy's throwing a strike, it's a strike. If it's a ball, it's a ball. He's not looking at who's in the uniform. That's how I look at it. I'm just calling it like it is.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's fine and all. Like, he's calling it like it is, but I mean, it doesn't sound like it's. I mean, it's borderline where it's just like, it's not like, oh, this Spicoli fellow right here is being like, oh, I'm being like just fair about it. It just seems like he just hates government no matter what. Which, I'm not gonna come down on him too hard on it, but that's not exactly an unbiased opinion. If you just think all of the politicians are corrupt, well, that's not exactly an unbiased position. That's not being fair. You know what I mean? Being fair is like, okay, Donald Trump has done these good things, but he's also done these bad things. Joe Biden has done, these good things, but he's also done these bad things. That's what's being fair. But when you're just like, well, they're all corrupt, they're all horrible, they're all terrible. Well, it's, again, welcome to have that opinion, but that's not being fair.
Good. That's good. The last thing I'll say about this is, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying it's Republican versus Democrat. I'm saying that basically the old school Republicans aren't that different than the Democrats, and more that there's this deep state or blob or whatever that's really running the show behind the scenes. And the reason that they look at someone like Trump, and all of these glass ceilings were broke with Trump, like he was the first one to get convicted of felonies, and he was the first one that we know that there were FISA warrants against his team and all of this shit. The reason for that is because he's seen as an outsider, and they didn't want that. Just like Bernie Sanders was seen as an outsider in 2016. They took care of his ass in the primary, though. But so that's the only thing I have to say.
But what about that Senator Menendez that was taking gold from all those Arabs and stuff? He just got sent away for 10, 12 years. You know that dude, that guy from the East Coast, Senator Menendez, Robert Menendez. You know that
guy that his own party held him accountable.
He had gold bars from Arabs stashed in his house. Yeah, fuck him. Send him to jail.
Okay, all these guys, allow me to retort. Yes, Bob Menendez committed crimes that were so blatant that it forced their hand, right? And they did it strategically when it was a point. They did it strategically when it was a point where the Democrats knew that they weren't in jeopardy of losing a seat. It was the same thing with Al Franken. But when it's people like Keith Ellison that they still have utility for, when he's credibly accused on camera of his wife calling police of the abuse that he was inflicting upon her, they shrugged their shoulders and looked the other way. When it was Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, they shrugged their shoulders and looked the other way until they could no longer do it, and it didn't matter for their power anymore. This is exactly the argument I was saying with Sarah, that what you'll see is Democrats will say, we'll bury 10,000 Democrats if it means that we could go after Trump. But they never do it when there's still utility in those people. So what did the Democrats lose by going after Bob Menendez? What did they lose? Anyone?
They didn't gain anything.
Sure they did. They gained the ability to, so that people... They gained the ability so people like Big Jay-Z could come on here and go, see, Democrats go after their own, unlike Republicans that don't.
Yes. To the rule of law. Yeah, that is actually
really accountable to the rule of law.
Yeah, okay. It actually is.
Can you point me
That's
to your
problem, not mine?
Cool. Can you point me to your criticisms of Hunter Biden and the FBI covering up for him? Can you point to me your social? Let me finish.
Know who you're talking to.
Yes, that's right. I don't know who I'm talking to. You are a nobody to me. But can you point me to your criticisms of?
Actually, Rob, I got
this Big JC. He kind of looks like Andrew Garfield a little bit with the missing tooth. I wonder if him and Radical Coder hang out, missing teeth thing.
You're gonna let me finish my point? You gonna let me finish my point?
Conservatives.
Are you gonna let me finish my point?
Not allowed to upset
hold on.
Cannot shut up about Joe Biden. Dude is not the president anymore.
Right, but when he was for 4 years, and we were accurately calling this out at the time, the Democrats said that we were conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
And another tool in their playbook is to say, when it matters in real time, you're crazy, it's not happening. And then once they're no longer a threat to the... Would you just shut up? Would you shut up? Would you shut up?
How come you guys can do it, but we can't?
Would you
How come you guys can do it, but we can't? No, it's that you guys have been doing it. And then when we do it, you get upset. But here's the thing. Like, what did Rob just say right now? Hold on, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to rewind a little bit because I was gonna make a point, but I literally just had a brain fart and just forgot what Rob just said.
They did it strategically when it was a point where the Democrats knew that they weren't
gaslighting,
losing a seat. It was the same thing with Al.
The gaslighting, yeah, that was the whole calling us conspiracy theorists if we had certain narratives and stuff. They totally gaslit us and would shut us down at every turn. Like every time we would bring up something about Joe Biden. It would be like, oh, that's conspiracy theories. That's unproven source. And then a few months later, it would come out like, oh, actually, that was true. And we'd be like, yeah, I told you. And they'd be like, well, yeah, maybe it's true. But here's why it's a good thing. Or you know what? This is why Orange Man's still bad. And then they would just deflect onto something else. They're all a bunch of liars. Like, all a bunch of liars. It's so weird. Like, is it just the hatred of Trump that makes these people like align so hardly with the Democrats and the Democrat narrative? Like, have they been really like brainwashed and fooled into believing like Donald Trump is this huge threat? He's a huge threat to democracy and all this stuff that they're just going to align themselves with all the Democrat propaganda and stuff if it just means talking about how Orange Man is bad and trying to really drive that point home about how Orange Man is bad. It's so like gnarly. So gnarly to me that like they would allow like our economy to shut down and lockdowns. Like they would allow themselves to be locked up in the name of like of what they've been told. It's insane.
But when it's people like Keith Ellison that they still have utility for, when he's credibly accused on camera of his wife calling police of the abuse that he was inflicting upon her, they shrug their shoulders and look the other way. When it was Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, they shrugged their shoulders and looked the other way until they could no longer do it and it didn't matter for their power anymore. This is exactly the argument I was saying with Sarah, that what you'll see is Democrats will say, we'll bury 10,000 Democrats if it means that we could go after Trump. But they never do it when there's still utility in those people.
Yeah. And
so what did the Democrats lose by going after Bob Menendez?
What did they
lose?
They said it was Russian disinformation.
They didn't gain anything.
Sure they did. They gained the ability.
So that the laptop. Who cares?
They gained the ability so people like Big Jay-Z could come on here and go, see, Democrats go after their own, unlike Republicans that don't. Yes.
The rule of law. Yeah, that is actually
really accountable to the rule of law. Okay.
Hunter in these jobs and giving his father kickbacks.
Cool. Can you point me to your criticisms of Hunter Biden and the FBI covering up for him? Can you point to your social? Let me finish. Yes, that's right. I don't know who I'm talking to. You are nobody. Can you point me to your criticisms of
actually, Rob, I got.
You gonna let me finish my point? You gonna let me finish my point?
Conservatives,
are you gonna let me finish my point?
Not allowed to upset
hold on.
Cannot shut up about Joe Biden. Dude is not the president anymore.
Right, but when he was for 4 years. When he was for 4 years, and we were accurately calling this out at the time, the Democrats said that we were conspiracy theorists. And another tool in their playbook is to say, when it matters in real time, you're crazy, it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they're no longer a threat to the... Would you just shut up? Would you shut up? Would you shut up?
You guys can do it, but we can't.
Would you shut up?
Would you shut up?
Just a moment, JC. I know that you're new here tonight, but you have been in the Discord, and I appreciate your support and being here.
Yeah, but they're like, you can't shut up about Biden. Oh, okay. Even though when Biden was president, they couldn't shut up about Trump. They would go on and on and on about Trump. So again, another one of those like hypocritical things where it's like, well, now the go-to is like, oh, you're still talking about Biden? Like the whole Biden health stuff. That's their go-to now. And go, Biden's not president anymore. Why are we still talking about Biden? Oh, well, how come you guys could talk about Trump for the last 4 years when Biden was president? Like, how come you do that?
But on this panel, I do not like it when people interrupt other people. It just pisses me off. It grinds my gears. It chaps my ass. And then I get pissed off, and then I just kick you out for the night because you're not listening to what I'm telling you. So I kindly request that you do not interrupt somebody else when they're especially in the middle of handing a point back to you.
With all due respect, then, maybe a more clear system on who has speaking time, because Rob has a tendency to ramble on incoherent points as long as he's allowed to speak.
And Rob,
I don't think he does.
okay, let me, Doc, you know better. Doc, you know better. Number one, Rob is the guest of the evening. Number two, I'm in charge. Number three, shut the fuck up.
This is the Rob show, JC. You gotta live by Rob rules.
And I'm certainly trying to be quiet when other people.
I thought it was a debate, not a circle jerk. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Well, I think that there's a circle.
Well, it's funny because the circle is mostly lefties, so I don't know what this dude's talking about here. These are all lefties on this panel, you know, obviously not including the moderator, but all lefties here, and it's Rob against all these lefties. So it's a circle jerk of lefties. Well, and Spicoli, who's just like, yeah, government's just bad.
Circle around me, and it ain't coming from my side.
Yeah,
you see what I mean. But I tried, like Spicoli talked at great length. I let him talk, right? Like, so the idea, I'm trying to be patient when other people talk. You made a point. I'm trying. By the way, I'll just say this. It doesn't matter, but just a sort of a thing that I think's a faux pas.
What is a neoliberal? Big JC, he right here. He has neoliberal and more attractive than Rob. What's a neoliberal? Is that a rebranding? Is that like the new, like, oh no, you know, don't call me a lefty, you know, don't call me a progressive, I'm a neoliberal. Oh, then yeah, Duck right here with this Nazi Trump fuck off. Yeah, that's really original there, Duck. Yes, very, very brave of you.
For streamers, like
that's never been said before.
You do this as well. I see Big JC doing it.
Duck, take that down.
When instead of listening to the speaker, you mute yourself and then talk to your own audience. Good form. I'm sure you're really paying attention there. Anyways, I'll finish my point, right? I would like to see you show me an example of like when we had whistleblowers from the IRS coming out saying that the FBI was actively covering up for the crimes of Hunter Biden, particularly tax crimes and FAR violations. I'd like to see any social media post you had criticizing that, saying that these whistleblowers should be heard, that it's outrageous.
Oh, yeah.
Big JC, can you show me any post you made?
Yeah. Yeah, the whole like fornication tapes that were filmed in like the Congress and stuff like that, and like the government buildings. Like, yeah, not a peep. But Donald Trump makes a joke that was captured on camera that obviously wasn't serious, and they used that to label him. Oh yeah, see, he loves assaulting women. He's anti-women. See, look at that. He essays women. Totally hypocrites. Neoliberal is in term what that the communists / socialists use for Democrats. Neoliberal is a term that the communists / socialists. Oh, okay. I get it.
You made any video you made, anything like that?
I thought this was the Rob show, not the Big JC show.
I asked you a question. If you can't respond, then what's your utility of being here?
I did respond. I said I thought this was the you show. Why do I have to demonstrate proof of the validity of my claims?
Well, because
why not just step up and
then leave?
Claims?
I guess
he's answering. Well, he's answering.
Can I ask you a question about this?
Well, look.
He's offering you an answer?
Look here. I'll give you an answer, Rob. I think that the Hunter Biden. I think he should have pardoned all of Hunter Biden's future children as well. Okay. I think with the level of heat that conservatives have lit the fire under this country's political climate, I think that it is high time. And this is kind of what I was pointing out. I think it's kind of ridiculous that you guys get to play by an entirely different rule book that any of us have access to. I'm kind of sick of it. So no, actually, I'm fine with Hunter Biden being pardoned. I'm fine with Donald Trump pardoning his kids too. He's not going to be able to save himself from the capital crimes that were coming after him after the midterms.
And there you have.
Yeah, I don't even know what the hell the capital crimes after the midterms on. But it's funny because he's projecting. He says like, "Oh, like you guys are playing by a totally different rule book." No, you guys are playing by a totally different rule book. All right. I mean, what do you call it when you people on your side could burn down whole cities, right? Burn down all these buildings, commit all this property damage, right? Even injure people. Even people were unalive during the BLM riots. You guys are able to do that, right? Because you guys had good reasons. Oh, we're angry about George Floyd. You know, you guys have the good reasons. Oh, but if we but when January 6th happens, and it's because we feel like there's been an injustice against us, that there were shenanigans in the election. Well, that's not a good reason, and therefore that's bad. Well, who's playing by different rule books?
There you have it. That exactly proves my point. This is why people like JC should be mocked, ridiculed, and we shouldn't take seriously any of their claims. At least he's being honest here when he's admitting that actually I'm fine with the fact that whistleblowers said that the FBI was covering up for Hunter Biden. In fact, we should pardon him for everything that
That's not what I said.
Did. I just asked you a direct question. You said you're happy with the pardon. So you're admitting that you didn't answer the question that I offered
Sarah,
you?
I'm sorry, please. Me saying I'm okay with Joe Biden pardoning his son and any future children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren that he might have has absolutely nothing to do with the FBI's procedures.
So you then answered
So
you answered my question with a non sequitur. I asked you a question and you gave a response that had, by your own admission, nothing to do with the question.
See, Rob's not playing around.
I think that when the FBI takes inappropriate methods or inappropriate shortcuts, like Kevin Kleinsmith did when he mislabeled Carter Page as an informant, even the judge, by the way, agreed that that was just like an inappropriate shortcut. There was no malicious intent there. I think that, that is actually bad, and we still should investigate that stuff, go after that stuff, and get rid of those malicious actors whenever and wherever they may appear. But I'm not going to interpret or assume malice on every government actor until I actually have evidence to do so, because I'm not an insane conspiracist, I guess.
Okay, a couple things on this. One, you see how that's
clearly seems like a same person. This
criticisms of the FBI covering up for Hunter Biden. Second, that's fine. I'm willing to move on to Kevin Kleinsmith, no problem. You're doing exactly what I said, and Sarah laughed at this, where you're literally making the argument that I said you would, that this isn't corruption, it's incompetence. So can you explain to me how the head of the FBI, one of the head of the FBI's lawyers, didn't know that you're not supposed to change evidence to the opposite of the truth when he's saying things like #resist to go against Donald Trump, but you're like, it's absurd to think that there could be balance. You're saying it's just incompetence.
Absurd. It's absurd to think there's malice. That is in itself absurd. Do you have any
evidence to suggest that Kevin Kleinsmith was acting maliciously outside of the action itself?
We have plenty of circumstantial evidence. The first is
before Rob gives his explanation. They could assume all these things of Donald Trump and right wingers. Like they're free to assume malice from us or Donald Trump, right? Like everything Donald Trump does, it's because he's evil, he's bad, orange man bad. Like they could assume malice. But when we assume malice, oh, well, do you have any proof? Do you have any proof that he did it out of malice? Do you have him on camera saying, yes, I am doing this out of malice?
That he clearly had a bias against Donald Trump from the messages that we've seen.
They're all mind readers, right? They're all mind readers. They know what's going on in Trump's mind. But us, I guess we just lack that gift.
Released where he was actually texting things like #resist. So he had motive. We see that he had a bias. Second, it defines credulity to think that a high-level person at the FBI did not know that you're not supposed to forge evidence to say the opposite of the truth. The circumstantial evidence is overwhelming that because he had bias and because this action defies credulity, that he wouldn't know you weren't supposed to do this, that he had malice in doing so. However, even if I concede your argument that this was just an act of sheer stupidity, that even your local level sheriff in a small rural community like mine knows that you're not supposed to do, how is this any sort of defense for these actions whatsoever? More importantly, as you contemplate the answer to that, can you show me any evidence of you on social media or anywhere else, anywhere?
This commenter right here, but what about Biden? Weak ass answer to question. So they could do whataboutisms all day. So if we complain about Biden or the Democrats or Kamala Harris, whoever, just the Democrats, they're free to go, but what about Trump? Like they're free to do that. But when we do it, whataboutisms, that's so weak.
Whether it be a video or anything, where you criticize Kevin Kleinsmith when this information came out? Or are you doing, like I said, that the Democrats
always do? It's a way to stop us from bringing
now that the situation's in the past saying,
because they know that what we say is valid.
Let's move on from it now that it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And before you answer back, allow me to interrupt for just a moment. Rude Mudcrab with the big 5. Neve is breaking up with you. Bye, Duck. And to solidify Duck in the backstage, Gordzilla
If you
came
guys
in with another 5
haven't
saying,
liked this
"Stay
video
out,
yet,
Duck."
go ahead and give
And
that
then
video a like.
Drake
That'll help
goes.
me out a lot.
I have not seen you.
And
make
also,
this
too, I
much
have a
money off
link in the
one person
pinned
before.
comments.
Duck's the trooper, man.
If you want
Oh.
to,
And Duck, by
if
for
you're
the
joining
audience,
this so
Duck's
far,
going to stick up for me more than most
you
of
could
these
donate
lefties,
super
which
chats,
is
and I also have
ironic
a
'cause he's
Cash App
getting the
link.
heat.
And
I'm
in
on
the
my Discord
description
arc right now,
section, I have a link to the
Drew,
Discord. So if you haven't joined the Discord
Draco
yet,
with another
go
5
and do
saying,
it. Love Duck.
Later, Ryan, go find the tooth. You got plenty of lies. And then Carl Anderson with 2. But what about Biden? Weak ass answer to question.
Clearly,
and-
I can respond to that.
I guess
Clearly,
I'm
you're missing
done
the
again.
entire point. You're missing the entire point of what I'm saying. You give any criticism of Trump, and like Spicoli did, I just went through and was like, I share a lot of these criticism. I'm not saying what about Biden. I'm saying if you're the type of person that was fine with these sorts of abuses under Biden or any other Democrat politician, and now you want to pretend it's a big deal when Trump did it, we should not take you as good faith because clearly you don't care about the issue, or else you would have addressed it when Biden was doing it.
Fair enough.
And again, too, it's like it's not even just that they criticize it when Trump does it. It's like they make a big deal. It's a huge deal. Everything Trump does, it's a huge deal. It's not just like, again, they don't have any like, whatever positions about things that Trump does. Everything, everything that Trump does. Sorry, give me 1 second. Everything Trump does, there's no like thing that they have just like a whatever opinion about it. They're like, oh my goodness, this is horrible. This is the worst. It's like they make such a huge deal.
Can I ask you a question about that, Rob? Because that's like
Well,
the
can I
question.
answer the 2 questions that
Okay,
Rob
go ahead.
asked me? He asked me 2 questions. And
Well,
then Soy Pill, take it away, please.
You guys,
would that be all
as
right,
long as Sarah's
I know
done
you're
reading
making your
super
money.
chats, yeah.
Well,
I
I guess I'm actually out, right? Do I have to wait?
I'm going to
10
let
minutes before I
you ask your question, and I'll give you a couple minutes.
Because I came in to really just ask these two. The first one is the more important one, which is like, I understand what you're doing, Rob, where you're like, I don't want to.
This part is pretty good. This is where he really lays into Soy Pill and calls Soy Pill out. Pretty much exposes Soy Pill for being full of shit. Like Soy Pill tries to pretend that, no, actually I'm reasonable. Actually, I'm moderate, but he's not.
Engage with people who have this like faux pas, like, hypocriticalness that allows them to not call out their own side, but then only ever like give into their side. Because I have seen people who are like, yeah, I'm only ever good faith when it benefits me. And I understand that being frustrating, but like, don't you think it would be more beneficial to, especially for these people who may not know let me be clear, like when you talk about like the FBI stuff, like I don't know any shit about that. Maybe truly, if you were to explain that to me, I would actually be like, hey, oh, you know what, that is corrupt. And I do agree with you, Rob. But by refusing to engage with people who didn't call it out in the past, you're preventing yourself from building those bridges and potentially even convincing them that stuff is bad. I think you absolutely could. I mean, you clearly know a shit ton about it. You bring it up in like every single debate.
And how don't you know?
So now the Soy Pill's argument is basically, so now he's like, he's trying to put the guilt on Rob. Like, well, you shouldn't just not engage with us though, because then, and he's trying to make it like it would be beneficial for Rob. Like you're not trying to bridge that divide. It's like, well, what are you doing to try to bridge? You're not trying to do anything. Like you're like just talking to like I guess talking to a right winger in itself is an attempt, but clearly you're not trying to be open-minded and be willing to change your mind. You're really just trying to educate us.
Well,
how do I know what? Oh, because I don't watch the debates. I just know that you bring it up in every debate.
How do you know that?
Like, because Pisco and Econoboy tell me.
Because you've heard people that right. You're starting to see a little problem there. You haven't seen first source information yourself.
And I haven't. And I'm not. And again, I'm not here to specifically talk about that. I'm just like the whole tactic, because this is like the whole thing, like the first interaction we had, where I was like, oh, this is silly, right? Like if I hadn't called this person out, like how can we talk about it now? But like I understand what you're doing, but I think that you can absolutely like have more convincing arguments if you just say like, look, I think you're being hypocritical here. I'm going to make my point about this. After I've laid this out for you, can you then show me that you like why you disagree, why you do agree with me, or like have I changed your mind? Like I don't know. I just think it would be
two things. You're the dude that faked the Photoshop. That was you fucking loser. So Soy Pill, right? Like when we were going through this arc, Soy Pill and company were real mad that Trump put a tweet out where he quoted Napoleon and was like, if you're saving the country, you commit no crime, something to that effect, right? And I had all these leftists clutching their pearls like, Rob, I demand you answer for this. And I'm like, dude,
I
if
demand
you just
you
went
answer.
through the
I
lawlessness
demand.
of the Biden administration, I could talk 6 ways from Sunday of it, and you didn't say anything about that. I don't want to hear you clutch your pearls now and demand that I answer for a mean tweet that Trump made. It's bullshit, right? Soy Pill here, then, after I already agreed to talk to him, and I was going to have a conversation much like I'm having tonight with this panel, he instead photoshopped a tweet, which I took in good faith, saying, actually, I
Yeah, no, that's what they do. Like, I realize, like, that's what these slimy lefties do, Johnny boy. They want their gotcha clip for their base. That's all that they want. They all do that, you know? If you have a debate with these people, it could be a 2-3 hour debate, right? And you could be wiping the floor with them the whole time. But they'll take the one thing that you said that maybe they got you on, or maybe they could take something out of context to make you look stupid. Like, that's all it is. I mean, they just did that to Andrew Wilson recently. That's what they do. They're so disingenuous, and it's like, but then they cry when we don't want to talk to them. But it's not because they're looking to have a conversation. It's not like they're looking to really talk about the issues. They just want us to talk to them so they could get their clips in and just embarrass us.
Yeah, I did call out Biden. And so,
Well,
what was
to be
my
clear,
response?
first,
Real quick, what was
me,
real
first
quick?
you asked me,
Real
first
quick.
you asked me to say it, and I did tell you I don't have these tweets. You know, like, I didn't say this in the past. And he said, then I refuse to engage. And I was like, well, that's silly. And that is when I F12'd and edited.
What happened when you
so that
put,
you would engage? Well,
did
then
I-
you did engage. Which
I did
appreciate.
engage,
But
didn't
the,
I?
but the problem is, Rob, like, that thing, like the thing that I had to fake, it didn't exist, right? I hadn't called that out in the past.
Right.
Whether or not that was because I was engaging at that moment as a content creator, or because I didn't even see that story, or didn't care about it, or I disagreed with your take on it, I still think that you can have that conversation. It's very important to have that conversation.
Well,
and
you
if
can,
like
I
stop
take,
it at the moment, like, right, like.
I think that two things, right? One, the first thing is, right, like, your argument of what would be better for me for pragmatically for my side is just that your opinion. I disagree. Sometimes I engage with people, sometimes I don't. It's my personal preference on when I enjoy to do so.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Second, I don't take in good faith that you're legitimately trying to help me help people understand.
Exactly.
It. I don't think that that's what you're doing. I think
Oh,
that
I
you
think this is a more interesting conversation. You're right. I'm not trying to help your side, to be clear. Like,
so let me finish real quick.
Yeah, so in case you missed it, yeah, Soy Pill wanted to engage with Rob, so he faked a tweet. So Soy Pill faked a tweet where he called out something Joe Biden said or something like that, just so that way Rob could see it and engage with him. So now Rob's learning that he faked it just to engage with them. So now Rob's telling him to go fuck yourself. But it's funny because it proves Rob's point about the whole, like, hey, you people didn't call it out, so I'm not going to engage with you. Well, Soy Pill didn't call it out. Like, it's proving Rob's point. But now Soy Pill feels like he's owed this conversation. But why, though? You're clearly not going to be good faith. It's clear that you are just going to be anti-Trump and not be fair about it. You're not being fair. You just want to push your anti-Trump TDS like agenda. So why should Rob talk to you? Why do you have to trick people to talking with you?
Real quick, I think that the utility is that you understand by allowing the focus and the control of the narrative to be on people that were bad faith and didn't give a shit about the issues you're talking. Let's make it real simple, like the kids in cages. That you would say, oh, just because these people cried about kids in cages under Trump and then they ignored or defended it when it was under Biden and it was 2 times as worse. But now that Trump's back in office, they want to talk about kids in cages. Strategically, you should talk about kids in cages again and explain. No, bullshit. That's their form of controlling the narrative, particularly on these spaces. I'm tired of giving in to lefties that have all of these. Let me
call them out for that.
Let me finish. That have all of these institutional advantages on platforms like YouTube, where they're not getting demonetized, they're not getting algorithm manipulation against them, they're not getting censored for talking about certain topics, right? And so, given that, I will choose to talk about who I want, and I will talk to the people that are more malleable, including audience members of people like you, Soy Pill, and I'll explain in good faith why these issues are corrupt that I'm talking about. But I owe you nothing. And your opinion that I owe you something is not, it means nothing to me. And I think that there is more utility in not allowing people like you to sidetrack and control the narrative by assuming that you're arguing in good faith when clearly you've shown an example that you're not. That's what I think.
Yeah, but obviously Soy Pill does think Rob owes him something. If he has to trick Rob into having a conversation with them, because Soy Pill obviously feels that he deserves it. He's owed it. So if he has to trick him, that's how he's going to get it. So don't lie, Soy Pill. You do think that. You might not consciously know it, but subconsciously, at least, you do think you're owed a conversation from Rob.
Well, I understand that, but I think you're really limiting yourself from the conversations that might actually.
Thanks for your concern, Mr. Photoshopping a tweet to talk to me.
I keep telling you it's not Photoshop, dude. It's FTL. Last thing, Sarah, and then I'll just head off the thing. You don't even have to kick me in the background. I heard you say, because I wasn't listening until the very last time before you jumped on. Why aren't they reading transgender story hour, drag queen story hour to people in old folks' homes? Like,
Correct.
you know, people in old folks' homes can read, right? Like the idea is like
They also do.
Like to like read to kids is like it's a reading time.
Guess what I did?
They might play music for old people, and they actually do. They do like burlesque and drag shows.
Were you ever in the
like,
Boy Scouts?
But was I in the Boy Scouts? No.
When I was in the Boy Scouts.
Guess
what we did? We went to nursing homes and read.
Okay.
So the idea that this doesn't happen, because a lot of people have you ever been into a nursing home?
Yeah, I did. I did volunteer work in a nursing home. We played music.
Will you acknowledge that there's a lot
of
of people? There's a lot of people that, like, whether it be through poor eyesight, dementia, other things, don't really have the ability to read.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's fair. Okay.
Right. And so, like, the idea, like, nursing homes are desperate for people to come in and offer any form of entertainment. You're right. Yeah. I also played French horn. I went in and played French horn for elderly people. I saw people. Hey,
French horn is bass.
I should be kicked off
one of the few
panel.
things Rob and I will agree on.
I hear you. French horn's like the heaviest instrument.
Poor Rob getting roasted for playing the French horn.
Start from scratch, right?
That's
what I tried to do.
Here's some advice. Thank you for your advice on who I should talk to. Let me give some to you. If you're actually interested in starting a YouTube channel so you can have good faith conversations with me, who's the target audience, then maybe the first interaction we have shouldn't be you F12ing and faking an image to enter the conversation in false pretenses. So why don't you reflect on that a little before you offer advice to other people on what their conversation should be like?
I tried, Rob. Let it be known I tried. Okay.
You were in that debate with me regardless, were you not?
Well, until you left.
Well, yeah, because I'm not, dude. You're so fucking stupid. You come in and you're like, basically, I chumped you out, haha. At the beginning of the debate, what'd you expect?
You started off saying, "I'm here with this stupid motherfucker who doesn't know anything." I was like, "Okay, well, let's clear the air," because I actually did want to have a conversation about something completely
different. Do we need a debate?
No,
I would love to see Rob debate.
I'm genuinely interested in like talking about some of the things that Rob does.
Rob Noerr is a machine. He is a beast.
I'm trying to be nice, Ark. Rob, I'll take you to the gym. I'll buy you a beer, and we'll talk about some Democrat stuff. Okay, like I'm actually trying to like
talk to you about Democrats.
Well,
that sounds like a lot of fun.
Thank you for that bridge. I think that I definitely need to work. I can get my back fixed, but I do appreciate that offer. But what I'll say to you is, no, thinking about it, I refuse to engage with you in a one-on-one setting because I think you're a sack of shit that manufactured a tweet in order to get me to enter a debate in false pretenses. And then
it had nothing to do with the debate,
let me
Rob.
finish. And then you announced it at the beginning of the debate in order to sort of chump me out. So go fuck yourself.
That's man, I wish that was what happened.
I wish that you wouldn't have been a bad faith sack of shit. But you were.
I mean,
see what I mean? Completely expose Soy Pill for being a quote sack of shit. But I mean, that kind of does show like you're kind of a bad faith actor if you have to manufacture a tweet because you feel like you're owed a conversation. And again, really, all Soy Pill wants to do is educate Rob on the proper way to think.
I mean, between the two of you guys,
that's why they don't like this. That's why they don't like this disengaging stuff. That's why they don't like that Rob wants to disengage from them, is because they're not looking to have a conversation. They just want to re-educate them and teach them the proper way to think.
On your side, Rob, I love Soy Pill.
He seems decent.
He's always been reasonable. I would totally debate him in a half a second, right? Because he always
don't push Rob out of the way. All right, Rob, don't let him shove you out of the way.
Rob.
Try to steal his spot.
I will stand side by side with Rob on any debate
with a Y,
right? But
I mean, I guess I can't really talk shit. I spell cool with Kewl.
I think that Soy Pill is also a good faith debater.
All right, let me ask you this real quick, Vibe. Let's say you're doing some sort of
before you do, just mild housekeeping because it's driving me fucking nuts too. Who the fuck is typing?
It's me, and I'll leave when I answer my questions from 15 minutes ago.
You can hang out backstage.
Building bridges, Jason.
While everybody else is trying to actually have a fucking conversation. Just word to the wise, panel rules 101. You're going to sit on panel, and I understand, yeah, there's other people talking. We have to wait. We want to talk in chat and so on and so forth. Fucking mute your mic. It ain't that hard. Thank you, Jeff.
I'm about to get kicked. Do you mind if I say one thing before I
Can
get
I
kicked
just
again?
real quick say this to Vibe? Like, just to answer this, let's say that you were like, hey, I want someone who used to be a firefighter because I have a disagreement that I'd like to talk about them on my channel. And I said, yeah, I used to be a firefighter. And then I come on your show and you're like, thanks so much. It's really nice to have someone that was a firefighter here. And I go, actually, you fucking idiot. I manufactured that evidence. I was a firefighter. Still interested in talking to me?
Wait, Rob, can I explain exactly what happened from my perspective?
I don't get, you can
tell me
try. I don't get.
You know, I mean, the lefties are not above deceiving you in order to get what they want, you know. Soy Pill will press F12 to manufacture a tweet in order to get a conversation. There is a trans woman that manufactures that they're a woman in order to get a date with a straight man. See? Same how do you say? Like same method. They're not above using these type of deceitful methods.
But give
just for the record, okay, this is what happened.
And I want to answer. Okay,
well, hold on, wait, vibe, because this is irrelevant, right? Because like, I mean, it's not irrelevant. That's similar to what happened, but not really what happened. But Rob, let me clear the air here. Like, this is what happened. Wick said, "Do you want to go on this panel?" I didn't even know you were on it, by the way. I agreed to that panel. You agreed to that panel separately. Now, this tweet was completely adjacent to this. I tweeted. I saw you reply. I forgot it was Lactoid or someone replying about, "Hey, I think that, you know, this thing is not so bad, but I'm not going to criticize that because of your ideology of like, hey, I want to call out people who actually have been calling out their side when they're bad. Otherwise, I'm wasting my fucking breath. Understand that, right?" And so I said, you know, hey, like, don't you think it's bad, like in general? And we didn't have a history, right? We don't know each other. And your immediate reply to that is, well, unless I know that you called out Joe Biden when he was corrupt, then I won't engage. And I saw that as bad faith. I was like, this is weird to me because I thought
How is that bad faith? He's being honest. Like, why is that bad faith? If Rob would have said, yeah, I'll have a conversation with you, Soy Pill, then gets on with you and be like, oh, by the way, I actually don't want to have a conversation with you. I actually just want to call you a piece of shit. Well, then that would be bad faith. But if he's saying straight up, hey, listen, I don't want to talk with you people. I don't think I owe you these conversations because I don't think you guys are good faith. Bada bing, bada boom. He doesn't owe you one. You're not owed conversations. So that's not bad faith. What you did, Soy Pill, was bad faith.
Thought we could just talk
then
about
why
it.
would you want to talk to me if you
you
thought I was being bad faith?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, first of all, I engage with any bad faith actor because I'm like interested, at the very least, interested in like hearing what they have to say. But I was like, okay, well, that's a weird tactic. Like, and I explained
That's a weird tactic.
I was like, look, I don't have that. Like, I can't show you this because I didn't say it. Like, but isn't there still a conversation to be had? And you said no, so you doubled down, said no, I don't want to do that. And so I was like, well, what if I, fabricate some silly evidence? Let's see. Like, well, then he talked to me, and you did, and I appreciated that because you were true to your word. You did. You said, look, thank you for showing me, and then you gave your opinion, which is what I wanted, and I was like, that's great. And then in the debate, you were like, you're the only reason I'm here to have this good faith conversation. And that's
not quite what I said.
Well, something about that, right?
I said that my strategy in this debate was going to be similar to what it was tonight. To say that, and let me give my version of what happened then, right? Sure. What happened for me was I have all these people that I'm debating regularly on the left. When I called out and was like, look, here's, Joe Biden, Merrick Garland sending the FBI to collaborate to go after angry parents at school board meetings. This is terrible, blah, blah, blah. These people say, no, it's not a big deal. But then as soon as Trump says words, not actions he's taking, that's not what people are criticizing, words. He said this tweet. He said, oh my God. Now, I personally wasn't a big fan of the tweet. And when I talked to Lactoid and I talked to Ryan Mullally, who's a lawyer who's more centrist, I had whole conversations with them. It's like, actually, I'm not a big fan of this tweet. Let me explain why. I don't think it's as bad as what people are saying, but here's my legitimate criticism of Trump saying this, right? But what was happening was I had all these people that I interacted with in the past that I knew had no problem with lawfare that was being directed against Donald Trump. They did not give a shit, even if it was illegal, like illegal FISA warrants and spying on Trump. So I don't owe those people shit. When those people start adding me and they're like, oh, what do you think about this tweet? My is fuck you. I don't care. I'm not going to talk about Trump's words and tweets when you defended or were silent about the actual actions that his opponent took that were far graver than just these words, right? Now, in the context of that, you jump into the conversation by your own admission. You're saying that you saw that there was some sort of interaction. So you knew what I was saying about this. You're like, oh, well, what about me? Well, you answer to me. I say, did you answer to me? You jumped in the middle of the conversation where I was making a point. I'm tired of these people that are bad faith because they were okay when Biden did this shit, demanding that someone like me answer for just a tweet. So I asked you the same question that I was asking all these other people I knew. And you were like, well, maybe first you said no or you didn't answer. And I was like, then I'm not interested in talking. Then you fabricated a tweet. And I was like, I was in the room with my wife. I was like, fucking hey, someone answered. Like, yes, I could have a good conversation about that. This is great. So I was excited. My plan going into the debate, I didn't know you were in that debate with Wick, but hosting, but my plan going into it was I was going to approach it like this, like, fuck you guys. I have an opinion on this tweet, but if you guys were okay with what Joe Biden did, I'm not going to sit here and all of a sudden have to answer questions about what about Trump's mean words? Trump's mean words suggest he may do what our actions did to him. Fuck you. No, I don't care. That's how I was going to approach. But I was excited and changed my strategy because I knew at least one of my opponents was good faith. Then you announced, haha, I made that up, which was, if you would have waited till the end, I'd have been like, okay, I guess you got me. But you said it early in the debate, which meant that I'm a chump if I don't at that point be like, then fuck you, I'm not engaging with you. You entered this conversation in bad faith. You entered it in bad faith, so I didn't give a fuck. And every interaction...
I mean... Yeah, I mean, you know, Rob's 100% correct, but I'm pretty sure he would have been more pissed off if Soy Pill would have been like, oh, by the way, I F12 that tweet, ho, ho, ho. You know, because that would have mean that Rob would have wasted more of his own time there. I don't know. I think I would be more pissed.
I have from here on out with you will have that in my mind, that you lied and you tried to chump me out, and so go fuck yourself.
Right. So
that's it. Simple.
This wasn't... this wasn't me trying to trump you out or lure you into debate. It was literally...
I don't believe you.
Okay, sure. I'm just telling you what...
See, I like this. I like that Rob's straight up telling you, I don't believe you. And he's being
I thought it was interesting because I did want to know your opinion. I was like, okay, Rob seems like someone who at least can engage with the fact, like, hey, I will criticize Trump when he does something bad. I was like, well, like, don't you understand that, you know, this Trump tweet is kind of indicative, like a weird, like, you know, I'm above the law sort of thing. Like, what do you think about that, Rob? And I felt like, well, if I can't show you a thing I never said, then like, it's weird that you wouldn't talk to me about it.
I don't give a shit.
No, that's fine.
Finish up, and then I'll tell you.
Criticizing.
Yeah, that doesn't. You could think it's weird all you want. Of course, you're going to think it's weird because you're entitled. You think that Rob or other people owe you conversations. But you proved Rob's point. Like, you never said anything about what Biden said in the past, so of course, then he's not going to engage with you, and he doesn't owe you a conversation. That would be like, imagine going up, like, Soy Pill might relate to this, just because, you know, the left, they would be so against this. Like, imagine if I pretended to be like a millionaire, right? Let's say, or let's just say like a single guy, you know, pretends to be a millionaire, right? And he asks this girl out, and the girl goes out with him thinking that, oh, he's a millionaire. And then the millionaire, and then, you know, they go on the date, and right off the bat, the millionaire is like, oh, by the way, actually, I'm not really a millionaire. Like, actually, I'm broke. I actually work at the McDonald's. She would be like, well, what? You know, you would probably be like, yeah, why would you trick that woman, right? You'd be like, yeah, that's bad faith. Yeah, that's horrible. She doesn't owe you a date. And then the guy's like, well, the reason why I tricked you is because I wanted to go out with you. And I thought it was weird that you don't go out with non-millionaires. And so why wouldn't you go out with me? I thought that was weird. So I had to trick you. Like, well, she's not entitled to go out with you. And Rob Noerr, Soy Pill is not entitled to go out with you. Okay. Bottom line. Okay. Just accept it. He's out of your league.
The point is, like, I would understand if you like look at like a Pisco or these other people you talk to and like, look, but it's so, I would think it would be so simple for like, yeah, I'm not going to engage. And, you know, I don't want to like, you know, give you the time of day if you're going to be like such a hypocrite about this. But if you do publicly state it to people in these spaces, what's the difference between saying, here's my opinion on it, also go fuck yourself because you're a hypocrite? And
because I owe you nothing. Because I owe you nothing, and I'm tired of engaging in good faith to people that are clearly bad faith. And particularly when it comes to mean tweets, I don't give a fuck. I don't think it's an important topic anyways, and I'm not going to owe anyone these answers. And listen, you want to give me advice? My advice to you is, if you want to have honest conversations with people, don't enter into them with farcical lies and then say them early enough into the debate where you force their hand. And I just want to say, I don't believe a fucking word you say. If you steal $10 from me, and then you're like, I find out you stole it, and then you're in my house next week and $10 comes up missing, I don't care how sincere you seem to be when you say, trust me, bro, I didn't steal the $10 this time. Once a thief, always a thief. Once a liar, always a liar. Go fuck yourself.
Can you understand, though, like, why
I
said
fuck
it
yourself. I don't
Can you understand why, though?
Like, oh, damn. But like,
I'm not even attempting to understand you.
All right.
Done talking.
You're just kind of like shutting down.
Done.
All right, but we're still here. But I guess
you're there, but I'm done talking to you.
I'm still
all
here.
right, Rob. I tried. I tried.
Like, what a
Well, Rob,
sleazeball.
good
Like,
luck.
what a
and
weasel.
Thank you, I
The
appreciate
offer still stands, but let's say that Marte absolutely is much larger than me, so you can absolutely take the advice from him. You'll get much bigger.
Good,
Careful,
good.
careful
He
of
seems-
the stack. All right, it does things. To
And he
your
never
heart, okay?
manufactured
I'm
a tweet
natty.
to lie to me. So how about that?
Yeah, and now Soy Pill has to throw Marte under the bus. Maybe he's still bitter that Marte and Rachel Wilson completely dominated them in that death penalty debate. The one where Soy Pill threw his debate partner, Radical Coder, under the bus by conceding that, you know what? Yeah, I agree. It is a deterrent. Well, then that's the debate, because that was the whole prompt. The whole prompt was, is it a deterrent? You conceded it was. End of debate. Poor Radical Coder. He was trying. Radical Coder was like, well, I don't concede. I don't agree because of this. He was trying to keep it going. But even his own partner, Soy Pill, just, no, shut up, Radical Coder. I mean, you don't see how that's not a deterrent? And lost the debate for them. So I guess he's still coping and seething over his loss to Rachel Wilson and Marte.
That's true. He didn't ever manufacture a tweet to lie to you, but he might die when he's like 35. So, be careful.
See it.
But thank you, Sarah, for having me. I appreciate the invite.
And Rob, I might ask you. What,
okay.
Sorry.
Not for me.
Second.
Okay. No. I'm out. I've been booted. That $5.
Well, I'd like you to say for a second.
Well, I don't know the rules.
Wouldn't you? Yeah. Okay. You can get.
Am I allowed to say? I feel bad for your chatter. They kicked me off.
It was a 5-minute boot. It's not.
I'll go for the rest of the panel. Vibe, ask your last thing.
I just wanted to put one statement out there to Rob: is you have your audience.
What up, Cody?
They trust you.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you.
Before, and who do you trust, right?
What's up,
Don't
Benjamin?
You want to talk to Soy Pill?
Seeing you?
No.
The audience liked you more than you might.
I actually have an update on that.
I'm just saying.
I'm glad they can come up.
I actually got the new dong for the MacBook. So thank you very much, you guys, for your super chats. I ordered it. It's not here yet, so I'm still relying on my Wi-Fi, but it's not acting up. But it's going to be here today. Single Dads Club, once again, for $5. Thank you very much. Soy Pill and Radical Coder just like to hear themselves talk. No substance. Yeah, pretty much. I think Radical Coder seems like a nicer guy anyway, but he's still lefty bad faith, But Soy Pill, I mean, seems like a real sack of shit. Well, I mean, just because it's like he doesn't see like how he deceived someone and he's trying to justify it. Like, yeah, but you don't see why I would do that. Like he's acting like he's owed a conversation from Rob Noerr. He's entitled to it. No. He demands that Rob talks to him. He demands it.
Come over to my channel. I don't want to watch to someone that tried to chump me out and lied as a pretext for having a type of conversation with me.
Well, let me say this: like, I would never blacklist you for using AI during a debate. I wouldn't blacklist you for engaging in something where you like frame something in a dishonest way, because I still want to hear what you have to say, and I think you should extend that out. I really
you should want to hear what I have to say. I don't give a shit what your opinion is on why I should talk to you after you lied, and then haha yuck announced it at the beginning of a debate where you got me to have a strategy.
I did that
to talk to you because I thought you were good faith, and then you bragged about being bad faith. Go fuck yourself.
That's why I told you, because I felt bad that was the reason.
I don't give a shit what your explanation is. Why would I believe you when you entered the conversation with?
It doesn't matter. I'm just letting you know what I think, and you can not believe me, but that's
right.
true.
And I don't believe you. I have no reason to ever believe anything you say, because our first interaction was you entering in, fabricating a tweet to lie to me.
Okay, Rob. But yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. Have a good one, guys. Good night.
Have a wonderful evening. Sorry, it didn't.
I wouldn't have even remembered that it was him if he didn't announce it. But now that he announced it again,
you see me in your dreams. Don't lie.
He wishes.
Oh,
so I think I'm also.
Soy Pill wishes that Rob or that anybody dreamt about him.
Supposed to be kicked for 5 minutes. I just wanted to say like one thing. I mean. First of all, I think using AI during debates, I would never shame you for that, Rob, because I don't think it's a bad thing to do. I think the way that we use AI can be criticized, but personally, as a neurospicy ADHD guy, it really helps me collect my thoughts. So I'm in big favor. In fact, I'm actually going to read something I organized here using ChatGPT. So my issue with Rob is that he machine guns out 5 claims per minute, talks about the emails, Russia, Biden's memory, and he's hoping you won't dig into any one of these. But if you slow down, they actually each fall. Well, maybe we'll get to that. Let me read my whole thing first. But I think if you do slow down and go through each one of these, they tend to fall apart. The FBI didn't charge Hillary because there was no intent. The Mueller report confirmed Russian interference and obstruction. Biden's memory, the media did report on it, but Rob floods the zone with half truths, just like Trump does. Who, by the
See, this is more gaslighting. Like, listen, yeah, I'm sure you could find articles covering Biden's mental decline. I'm sure there were articles that came out while he was president, but they weren't promoted. And the overall narrative that came from the mainstream and lefties like Radical Coder was no. He takes tests every day. He's mentally competent. Actually, Donald Trump is the one that we should be looking forward to. We should be looking at. What about Donald Trump's mental decline? Meanwhile, people like me and others were saying since Biden got elected that he is not mentally all there. We've been saying it since then, and you guys told us to shut up. It's actually not true, that it's conspiracy theories. It's a lisp. He gets mental tests every day. Shut up. And then finally, after that debacle of a debate that Joe Biden had with Donald Trump, that's when they're like, oh, you know what, actually. And then all these Democrats come out and be like, well, I actually saw it. I knew it. Actually, yeah, we were saying that the whole time. No, you fucking weren't. Why do you guys lie? Why you lie? Why you do that?
By the way, he talks about Trump's mean words. Trump doesn't just do mean words. He also signed more executive orders in his first 10 days than he did in his entire first year, which is not about governing. He's trying to overwhelm the people. Rob mentioned the accusations against Trump, or against Biden, excuse me, from Tara Reid, but he fails to mention that Trump was found civilly liable for essaying E. Jean Carroll, digitally raping her, actually, which it's kind of a weird thing to at least.
I know digitally means like, oh, with your fingers, like digitals. Like I know what that's what that means, but it just always sounds funny when they say digitally, like he did it over his phone or something like that,
About when you're talking about sexual.
You say essay and then use the R word. Just be
I should. My bad. I apologize.
All right, I already used one word I shouldn't have, so I just wanted to remind you.
It's weird to navigate. I usually don't take those.
I will also say I believe sometimes it's in context too.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
You're okay.
I try to.
Yeah, that's all.
I try to play by those rules, but I think you're right. The context is important. But I also want to respond to Just Cheryl. I responded to him in chat as well, but he asked about the woke right, and my opinion of the woke right is that it's it's kind of an identitarian movement on the right wing that hijacks the language of oppression to punch down. It's basically like Darvo for identity politics.
Woke is a very it has a very specific definition. I know it's like. Then they'll probably say like, well, why can't you define it? And it's like, well, because we all have the same idea. When we say something's woke, we all know what we're talking about. It's the same thing. Like when you go, well, what is a woman? Like we all know what a woman is. Just because sometimes when we say the definition, then you could go, oh, okay. So if someone can't have babies, well, then are they not women? Oh, well, what about if they have a genetic anomaly? Oh, well, and it's like, well, just because there might be some exceptions doesn't mean we don't know what a woman is. The same thing with woke. Like just because we have varying definitions doesn't mean that we all don't know what it is. Woke right is like a contradiction. If you want to come up with some different term for these woke right people that you're talking about, go right ahead. But when you say woke right, it's like in order for them to be woke, they have to be doing the same actions as the woke left, and they're not. Like they might have little similar things, but overall, it's not the same. So come up with like a new term.
It denies the harm. It attacks the victim, or it attacks and reverses the victim and offender. And in my opinion, it's transparent as all hell. But I believe I'm supposed to be kicked out for 5 minutes.
Wait.
By the way, too, the left probably trying to put it on the right, and some stupid people on the right who are doing this too. But I think the left, because if left were to say the definition of woke right, and if it matched the definition of woke left, well, then he would have to admit that woke left is a thing. I mean, I guess they kind of already are by the fact that they're using woke for the woke right.
leave him stay because, like, we'll do this real quick if you only got a couple seconds because the audience rightfully doesn't like you. I actually like you, Radical Coder. I do like talking to Radical Coder. So
you'd be surprised.
I do like
Your audience likes me too,
Radical
Rob.
Coder like comes on my channel. He's like he's a fan. He's a hate watcher. I like it. Right. So let's go through.
I would also have a beer with you, Rob.
Thank you. Let's go through.
Yeah. Radical Coder probably drinks White Claws. Single Dads Club with $20. Man, Single Dads Club. Listen, I know Single Dads Club on the other night on Rob Noerr's stream. He was, I think he was, I don't know if he actually won the Ultimate Chad's Club, the Ultimate Chad's honor or whatever it was when he was doing his grifting thing. But he was very close. He was a front runner. But so listen, so far, Single Dads Club is the Ultimate Chad here on the Cool stream. Well, let's see what Single Dads had to say. This is exactly what I don't like about Radical Coder. He was trying to say that the 34 counts against Trump was justified when he didn't even watch the disingenuous court case. Yes, exactly. All they cared about was the guilty verdicts. They don't care about if it was valid or if they were, like on the level and stuff. They just, now that they have that narrative, well, he's a 34-time convicted felon. Well, that's what they could use in order to further slander Trump. He drinks Zima. I forgot about Zima, but yes, he probably does. He's probably the only drinker of Zima left. Maybe him and Soy Pill.
Go through these one by one, right? Like we'll start with one, and if we only get through one, that's fine. You say the reason that they didn't charge Hillary Clinton was because she didn't have intent. Is intent necessary in order to commit that crime?
I believe so, yes.
Well, isn't it true that gross negligence wouldn't require intent, but that could be part of the statute and charging? Part of the standard?
Yeah, exactly.
I think you'd have to. This is what I'm saying. Like, I would like to see the statutes that we're referring to, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, well,
and so what I would want to do, if we were going to sit and do it, I would like to pull up some sources together and read through some stuff.
Let me inform
this is
you.
My issue with you is I feel like you don't usually do that.
Let me inform you, since we don't have enough time to do that with each of these issues. I'd be happy to do this
Well,
with you.
You say inform me, but what you're going to do is actually just assert something, right? And that's my issue.
That's true. And then you can look it up yourself.
What I'm going to say, pardon me, just because it's logistics, they booted, but I consider the time of the speed date with Rob and Soy to count for that. I usually do that.
The speed date. I like how they should call it a speed date. That's funny.
Continue on.
When it's the one-on-one, it's a little speed date.
I'll make this point in case someone boots you again. I'll make this point.
Soy Pill had to trick his way into the speed date with Rob. I told you. Soy Pill. Rob is just too good for you. He's out of your league, brah. He's out of your league. Stick to the radical coders that you're used to.
James Comey actually changed his original statement, said she was gross negligent, but because that was the language written within the statute that they were considering charging her, he changed it. But fuck, let's say, I'll be honest with you, Radical Coder, I didn't think she should have been charged, nor did I think Trump should have been charged, nor Biden, because unfortunately everyone mishandles classified information in Washington. And so I think to single out one person and charge them would be a bit asinine, even if it's someone that I'm not a fan of. However, the crime that should have been charged, which is blatant, is obstruction of justice, which they make this huge deal in going after Trump because supposedly this dude moved around boxes. Are you aware of the fact that Hillary Clinton's team had evidence from Congress subpoenaed 30-something thousand emails? Do you know that?
Yes, and the emails, there were emails that were deleted after the subpoena, right?
That's correct. Is that a crime?
I don't know that. So what I'm saying is I don't think so, because my understanding is the FBI could have charged for that and they didn't for various reasons, which including intent. But to the Trump thing,
real quick.
Again,
Well, please,
before you do,
now you're moving on to Trump.
My issue, part of my issue is that you do jump between these. But I want to mention the Trump thing because I don't think we're going to get to it afterwards. But my understanding of the Trump obstruction of justice is that he was requested to return these documents, and then he refused to return them, right? So
Hillary Clinton's team was requested to hand over emails and then refused to do so. All of the documents that they requested for Trump eventually came back. The ones that were requested from Hillary didn't. The fact that you say, I don't think it's a crime because the FBI didn't charge them, when my argument is the FBI is engaged in a corrupt double standard, and your proof that she didn't commit a crime or her team didn't commit a crime is, but the FBI didn't charge it, is further evidence to me. It is blatant 100% that it is a clear case of obstruction of justice. What do you think would happen to you if the FBI subpoena, or if Congress subpoenaed evidence from you and you destroyed it after you received the subpoena? Yes or no? Do you think that's a crime?
Well, I don't know, and so this is kind of my whole. Again, this is my whole thing. Like I think these are interesting.
I don't know. Of course, he can't answer it because he knows Rob's right. These lefties are so slimy. They just can't answer it because they know it proves them wrong. How come they just can't live in reality?
Questions, and I feel like most of us probably don't have like a good, really solid understanding of all of the topics that we've touched on right here that quickly. And I think it would be more interesting, and you should do this more on your show. You should dive into the evidence regarding these things and actually explore. I mean, I've watched a bit of it, and it seems like you talk a lot, but I don't see you reading a lot of things about these things. And I appreciate the stuff you talk about. You know, I find it interesting. I think you're an entertaining guy, but I'm really someone who is about learning. Like my whole meme is like learning is radical, and I just really think I would really like to.
Oh my goodness, his whole thing is about learning. Yeah, sure. You missed it earlier, but earlier, Soy Pill, he said that he was on his good faith arc, and now you have Radical Coder here saying I'm all about learning. Learning is radical. Oof. Yeah, I wanna press X to doubt there, Radical Coder. I'm pressing X to doubt.
Like to hear more substantive like educational pieces from you, because I think you're a smart guy, and I think that you could dive into these things really in a really interesting way.
I have dived into these as they were occurring in real time. Maybe I'll dive into them again. I take your suggestions on what I should do with my channel with a huge grain of salt. And what frustrates me, it's very similar to the I don't see evidence of Joe Biden's cognitive decline. You can't even admit basic truths. So I know that you're full of shit, and I'll explain why. You just said,
I never argued against that.
As you jump to but Trump, under Trump, I'm not going to respond. Right? Like as you jump,
I never mentioned Biden's cognitive. Well, I did, but
nonetheless, here's the point that I'm going to try to make. When you talked about Trump and you said, oh, the reason that they were charging him was because they requested stuff and that he didn't give it back. And that's why. And I'm like, yeah, but Hillary's team did the same thing, right? In fact, they never did get it back. And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, so isn't that a crime? And your answer is, I don't know. So you already said that you think it's a crime when Trump did it. But when Hillary does it, even her team does it even more blatantly, you're like, well, I don't know if that's a crime. That's how I know that you're.
I think she might have done it more blatantly.
Please let me finish. So that's how I know you're full of shit. And so it's not worth for me to sit here because as I go through it, like you're going to be like, just like furiously Google searching any out that you can. And you're going to be like, well, there's exceptions. It is blatant. They got a subpoena. They deleted the subpoenaed evidence. That doesn't mean Hillary ordered it. But someone on Hillary's team did that. The FBI knew that it was this guy, Paul Gambetta. They knew it. And they said, well, instead of charging him, we thought it would be a long, drawn-out legal battle. So what we did instead was offer him immunity. And then he said, guess what? I did it all myself. I had an oh shit moment. I remembered 6 months ago, Hillary's team told me to delete evidence, and I forgot to. Whoopsie. So then I knowingly committed a felony by having an oh shit moment after they were subpoenaed and deleting them. And then the FBI said, but you met with Hillary's top attorney, Susan Mills, like 2 days before you deleted it. What was that conversation about? And you know what Paul Gambetta said? I don't remember. And the FBI said, good enough for us, all wrapped up in a nice, neat bow.
We have.
See, you know what's great about Rob is that his ability to recall these facts with detail. See, I have trouble doing that. That's one of my flaws, especially when it comes to debating. I have trouble recalling specific with like details. You know, I could remember the general idea. Like I could remember so-and-so did this, but if you were to ask me more details than that, I'd be like, yeah, I don't necessarily remember. But I remember the general like incident. But Rob, though, he's able to just churn them out like nothing. Like I said, he's a beast. He's a machine.
We have to take Rob's word for all of this stuff. Like he's narrativizing so hard about all this. And I doubt anyone on the panel actually knows all the facts about the things he just fired off, right? And Rob himself, I would assert, or I would suspect rather. So yeah, I really think that's the thing to take away. If you're a fan of Rob, what I encourage you to do is like slow down his stuff and like just really go point by point and explore it yourself. Like I'm trying to do this more. I'm trying to slow down and explore this stuff because I think it's really important to take our time when all this stuff's happening.
How about this?
And you know, I got a list of 20 fire off so fast. You know,
I got a list of 20 things here. How about me and you? We'll set up debates on each and every one of them. We'll go 4 hours through each single one. How about that?
I would love that, Rob. I think
let's set it up.
We should do it.
I'll be happy to do it. And I will guarantee as we painstakingly go through it, and you're forced to admit that everything I said is true, you're going to be like, yeah, but.
Maybe.
We'll see.
All right.
Well, I guess we'll find out when we do it. I'll reach out to you on Discord, Rob. We'll talk about it.
I'm happy to set it up. Ryan, you got 15 backstage, and your mic.
I'm probably just going to bounce.
Okay, your mic though, I don't know if it's like too loud or something, but it is peeking out. I tried to hit you in the private
Oh, my
chat. I
bad.
didn't want to interrupt. It's okay. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but just so you know. All right, say good.
So what's funny about like radical coder though, saying like learning is radical, and that he wants to learn is it's obviously full of shit. Like he's not interested in learning. You know, if you're interested in learning, then I think he could be swayed more from the left into more toward the center. But they're not. They say that, but really, it's like they just want to lecture you and educate you. You know, that's why you have That's why you have like Sway Pill, you know, trying to trick Rob Noerr into engaging in a conversation because he wants to lecture you and educate you. You know, us guys, us here, right wingers, conservatives, what have you, we think the wrong way. That's how they see it. We think incorrectly. So we need our moral superiors over here on the left to tell us the proper way to think. And then when it comes out that they were wrong eventually, and when they backtrack or whatever, it doesn't matter. We should just always trust them because they know better morally than all of us.
Say goodbye, Ryan.
Nice seeing you, Coder.
Bye, everyone. Take care. Yeah, you too, bye.
Loader with
And
Coder.
if you'll all just allow me to get through a few super chats and do some logistics.
I'm gonna go to the restroom. I'll be right back.
Sure, take your time.
I'm
The
gonna
gauntlet
skip
is
ahead
officially
here.
open, and I will be redirecting you all over to there here in just a few minutes. But
Just checking, no manifestos,
Duck.
nothing,
It's Duck. Let's see what he has to say.
nothing weird.
Duck
on
also
8chan,
fancies
4chan
himself
in
as
your
center
browser
left,
history.
by the way. He's center
No,
left
right?
or left of center.
Okay, cool.
I guess
And then
I'll
when he
respond to
talks
this.
and he gives his
I guess
opinions,
I'll
it's
say
like
this to
more.
response. Like,
It's not center left. It's like
criticizing
no, you're
particular
left.
foreign policy decisions and stuff isn't exactly what I'm talking about. If you're someone who's, let's say, pro-Palestine, and you're like, I didn't like that Biden was too in bed with Israel, I don't like that Trump is, that sort of meets the criticism I'm talking about when you criticized an issue on your side that you carry that criticism over. When it comes to this issue particularly, though, I guess if we're going to focus on Ilhan Omar, I would say, what is the nature of her criticism? Does it have to do with sort of Israel violating sovereignty and having these attacks and the United States not being involved? Would you say that's a fair characterization?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I would think so, though. I feel like all that goes down to at the end of the day is probably
Oh, sorry. So
Muslim-
it's not Duck talking. It's Evan here.
Muslims are a protected group.
My bad,
and,
Duck.
The Israelis are more Western, so like through intersectionalism.
Evan spelled like even.
intersectionalism, you support the Palestinians because they are the less Western force.
I would agree with you. I think that's exactly what's going on, that they have a politically favored class. At this point, they view the world through the lens of cultural Marxism, people like Ilhan Omar. And so she'll say the Palestinians are victims and the Israelis are oppressors. Therefore, the standards don't apply to the oppressed, but they do to the oppressor. So if she tried to couch it in language of sovereignty or something like that, the question I would have is, where was her claims of sovereignty when the United States, against the will of the people of Syria, were stationed in Syria? Why didn't Syria's sovereignty matter? Right? And that's always the problem with these like sort of boisterous claims of foreign policy where you make these big, like, it's about democracy. It's about protecting the innocent. It's about protecting sovereignty. But it's always selective, right? As soon as it becomes like, well, actually, we don't like Syria, so screw them. We can go in and we can do that. We don't like Libya, so we can go in and do this to Libya and get rid of Gaddafi. But I personally like Hamas or Palestine, and so therefore it's wrong to do it there. I take that heavily with a grain of salt. That's not to say that there aren't situations where there are good actors and bad actors. My way of dealing with this is the United States has enough problems back at home. It is clear that we do not have competent or benevolent leaders, and so we need to stop getting involved in these conflicts. So stop funding Israel and stop funding Palestine. And we should be there to broker a peace deal, the same in Ukraine and Russia, but we should not be involved in the conflict to arm either side, sending money, sending troops to either side. That should be our role. Even if there is a role for the U.S. to be a world police, we've clearly lost that prestige by the fact that we've had people running this country, shadow industries like the CIA that's been screwing, like I'm sure you'll see here Ditzo talk all about this, like where actions that our leaders made in places like the CIA screwing over countries in South America, etc. I no longer trust these people. Instead, we should pull back. and have the focus be back at home. Ilhan Omar, though, is a blatant hypocrite who has preferred class of people. So I wouldn't, I'm not saying I hate everything about her, but I think she's terrible. She's amongst one of the most blatant hypocrites in Washington, and I don't take anything she says seriously. It's all about favoring her protected class and her group that she has an affinity for. And the standards she seeks to enforce on the people she disagrees with, she would never enforce upon our own collective groups. The ends will always justify the means with those sorts of people.
That's fair.
So outside of Palestine, I mean, when you look at Ukraine and Russia.
Sorry. Evan, did you have...
I'm sorry, Sarah.
My apologies. Evan, I know you typically ask one question and then we roll. Did you have any more to add in?
Part of me wanted to say something with like the last super chat before you went and said all like the parts about like the moving of the viewers. I'd say like with like the bureaucracy of the United States when it comes to like every single major empire historically, empire is built on the bureaucrats to go and operate it. And I think that since it was built in World War II and it was designed to go and be effective, it has worked very well. But now I'd say like there needs to be serious reform and overhaul. And I feel like almost that.
Is that for Rob? Is that for Rob, or can a progressive answer that?
Oh, here comes Duck.
Can answer that.
I agree. So I don't have much to say. So go ahead, Duck.
So I would, the only thing I would add to that is the first part that you said, where empire is built on bureaucracy, is completely suppositional. It doesn't mean anything. And then presuming some problem is also just seems like it's another second thing that you pulled out of your ass, right? It's incredibly disrespectful. It's rude. It's not accurate. And so I take incredible offense that you would bring something up like that, Evan. Even whatever, like Evan. I mean, I don't know what to say to you right now.
Duck, let me respond to this on Evan's behalf. If he doesn't know,
that's funny.
Right? You think Evan, it's disrespectful that we're criticizing bureaucracy?
I wasn't the only one confused.
I think it's disrespectful to say that. Oh well, we should start thinking about the revolution. When we don't know why society's consolidated.
Start thinking about the revolution. I think it's disrespectful
to call a senator or whoever it is, Ilhan Omar, a inbred Somalian.
To be fair,
I don't need to hear from someone that says that.
Look at Duck. He's getting offended that someone called Ilhan Omar an inbred Somalian. He's offended over that. But if anyone on the panel would have called, I don't know, Donald Trump, I don't know, evil German man, they would have called him Hitler. If they would have called him any name under the sun, do you think that Duck would be here offended? No.
She is literally practicing incest. And if you look at like the cousin marriage rates in Somalia, it's not very good.
Just a quick question to Rob in regards to that criticism of bureaucracy. Thank you for having me. Sorry, I just wanted to jump in real quickly on this. Rob,
it would be great if Evan here, if I hope that his last name is Stevens, so that when he read his name, it reads like even Stevens.
Your criticism of bureaucracy, is it applicable from the local small point of reference to then the statewide to then the federal wide? Would you criticize in the same way the bureaucracy of a small county that they're fucking up in the same way that you are criticizing the federal sense?
Sure. A bureaucracy will tend to have similar problems that I'm talking about, no matter how small they are. I don't even have to take it to government. Your bureaucracy in your Burger King that you work in, there's going to be corporate bureaucracy. Oftentimes it is sluggish. It could be corrupt if it's left unchallenged, much like any other hierarchy. However, I think the more localized you get, whether it be through companies, whether it be through governments, the more local you get, the more that it becomes reasonable to the people that are watching to be able to see these things, and the less total control that they have. The problem with the bureaucracy in the United States is that it's so entrenched and so massive. In fact, someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that by the numbers, we have more people that work for our government than any other government in history. is, I believe, an accurate statement. It is so big, so massive, has so much power, and has such a lack of transparency that it warrants more criticism than my county bureaucracy that has 4 people that work for it.
And I'll say kind of like for like the county example, a lot of the times it's like people are voted in because they're popular in their county, and then they hire people who are competent to go and do the job. And if you go and take that from like a small scale and move it up, like all the people who are actually capable of running the government, they all go and they talk amongst each other. They all go and do favors to go and get things done, like grease like the wheels. And at the end of the day, like the actual ruling of like the government is completely inefficient and just, and it doesn't even follow like the democratic process. It's just
this doesn't sound like it's citing this isn't citing
if I'm
any
in-
research on how government works. This is absolutely unacceptable, Evan. Like, I don't know if this
What?
is like a homeschooled argument or something like this.
What?
This isn't coming.
Wait
from
a
someone-
minute. Is Duck now taking shot? Is this a homeschooled argument? Dude, no, Duck, no. Listen. Why? You know, it's like, man, who was it the other day? Oh, it was a Destiny. Yeah, Destiny was like, we need the answers to like the economy, and so we need like to fund the IRS more. And it's like, as soon as you say that, it's like, oh, I cringe up, I tense up. When you take a shot at the homeschool argument, like, oh, I tense up, because then what you're saying is that public school better. Like, why are you defending public school? Why you do that? No one defends public school. And this dude, Duck, is center left.
Someone who knows anything, who's done like any research, right? Have we not spent the last really solidly since the 1960s studying democracy? We have. The U.S. government has spent probably billions of dollars studying democracy.
What?
Probably tens of billions.
Studying.
Maybe
Hold on,
hundreds of billions studying
What?
democracy.
Wait, Ditso,
If
let
I
me
may-
Ditso, let me respond to this real quick, right? If
Sure.
you're offended and say that like we're out to lunch, like criticizing unelected officials that are really running things, I have a simple question.
That's
for
your
you.
word, offended, Rob.
Okay, but
That's your word.
no, wait, but
offended.
you're like,
My word isn't offended.
what's the word?
You
You
did right.
seem
You just said
incredulous.
you're
Dr.
offended.
Dickhead.
Take offense.
Yeah, that's what I thought
What?
you said, but whatever. It seems that that's the impression you're given, even if you
Doesn't
didn't
make
directly
sense.
use that word. I have a simple question for you. Who was running the country for the past 4 years?
Well, what's the date today?
How about during the
believe-
prior
yeah.
administration? How about that?
So who is running the country?
Why is Duck acting so confused by that question? Well, what's the date today? Exactly what is it even midnight yet? What time is it? Like, he knows what Rob was asking, but he has to be disingenuous to be like, well, let me look at the date. Let me pull up my calendar real quick. Let's see. Well, if you want to be exact, Donald Trump has been running it the last 5 months, but you know, it's like, dude, we all know what Rob meant. Why are you acting stupid?
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's not a coherent question. So the
Sure, it's
executive
coherent.
was-
Does everyone else on the panel understand the question?
Yes.
I do.
Everyone understands the question, Rob.
So then it's coherent.
Yeah, so yeah, then it's coherent.
What is
So-
there an ontology for the country?
Oh,
Yes.
I like, listen, I'm just some dumb redneck. I know you like to use $10 words. My question is, who was the people that were actually making the decision and how the governance occurred in the executive branch? The ontology
Well,
of the
Biden
country is irrelevant to that
had-
question.
So Biden would have had an administration, and there would have been, we're guessing whatever the equivalent of like executive bureaucratic leadership at every agency.
Okay, so Biden, we're now seeing,
So-
even from prominent Democrats, was so
Or
out to
Evan
lunch that basically
from
there was a
prominent
shadow
Democrats.
team that was really running things. And when we look at policies that are massively unpopular, such as the porous southern
Right.
border that left in something like 12 million illegals, who would you be to get offended that
Yeah.
the American people would say, wait a minute,
Um,
this wasn't a decision that we voted for. This was actually unelected bureaucrats that we didn't even know because we were being lied to about the president's health that were the people that were making this decision.
Yeah.
That seems to be a
So,
significant
Rob-
problem with bureaucracy.
Rob, but you
Can I
feel
ask the floor for a
subjectively upset,
moment?
and that's splintering outward. That one thing's ability to splinter outward is totally different than asking what's actually like the 400-year journey or history of the United States. I don't know why you don't see that the way that I do.
Hold on. Can I jump in there for one
Yeah,
quick
go
second?
ahead and jump in. Duck, you got 5 in the back.
Real quickly.
Poor Duck.
Rob, we can have you and I can agree that criticism to bureaucracy is a needed element in democracy, in the republics. You need to criticize those who are elected as well as those who are appointed to the positions that are managing the country. But at the same time, you have to be extremely careful, because you know very well that the use of criticism towards bureaucracy is a political tool to enable authoritarianism, to enable dictatorships, to destroy the functionability of a republic. That is also the Damocles sword that function has. Now, in the course of the history of the republics, of the modern republics of the last 250 years, bureaucracy has been shall we say it in a colloquial way, a necessary evil. And I say that in a very colloquial sense. Why? Because independence and sovereignty requires people working for the goals of a state, the goals of a nation. That being said, corruption happens because
sometimes people could go on for too long.
I don't know if you're aware of it, the history of it. The other
I was trying to follow this question, but it goes on too long.
Which you should be.
And it's like, dude, at what point do we lose interest?
Clearly shows to us.
I want to hear what he has to say, but
starts on the private.
How do you say? What was it?
Influence
today, Junior.
So the smaller the public sector is, the less ability for the private sector to influence it in a negative way. Furthermore, your sort of Damocles argument, please, I said here quietly, your sort of Damocles argument makes no sense. So for example,
except for me,
I could turn this question to you. I could say, let's say that we have what we could look back in retrospect and say was an objective racist police department, maybe in the Jim Crow South 1930. And we say, this department sucks. They're clearly targeting African Americans. And we both agree it's disgusting, despicable, something that should be avoided. I could say, but ditto. Did you know that mobsters use these same sorts of argument to disparage the police so that they could go out and commit more crimes? So we have to be very careful about criticizing racism in police departments. I mean, this is a nonsensical argument. You're, of course, right that any sort of criticism you can make on any form of government could be taken to an extent that would help people that want to be corrupt in some other aspect engage in that corruption. But that's not what I'm doing. I'm pointing out specific things that I see are obvious evidence of corruption. Now, you should know this because previous conversations I've had with you show that you're quite capable of pointing out actions that the CIA's taken, particularly in South America, where you have an affinity for, where you think those actions were corrupt. And I bet if we really delved into it, you would say most of the time the presidents probably didn't even have any clue of what was being done in the name of the United States by these bureaucrats at the CIA. So you would let me finish, please. I said you would probably say, yeah, that's true. And yet then you would say, but wait a minute. We can't criticize those bureaucracies because bureaucracies can be useful. We always need people working in the public sector in order to enforce the will of the people, because especially the bigger the government gets. And while that's true, the problem is when these hierarchies and these bureaucracies go unchecked for so long and are allowed to engage in political corruption, they become more powerful than the elected leaders that they're supposed to work for. And they certainly aren't engaged in the will of the people in the United States. The best and easiest example I could give for that is it is massively unpopular to have the porous border that we had under the Biden administration. It wasn't Biden himself that was making those decisions. It was people behind the scene doing it. It did not matter that the will of the people was almost unanimously, like 80% or so, hey, we don't want this shit occurring. So much to the point that even Democrats, even Hispanic people in the United States voted against this shit. And so I would say to you, the idea that we can't criticize that bureaucracy or we have to do it in this specific way is nonsensical. You know that the bureaucracy is corrupt. I'm pointing out the specific ways that they are. And I feel that your criticism is just a general, but we have to be careful because people can take what you're saying and go too far.
Yes, I think Rob is absolutely 100% correct. Now, look, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. If you want to watch the rest of the panel, it is good. And for instance, Rob gets into a good back and forth with, it's spelled, Devon here, but it's Davon. He corrects him. It's Davon, fighter of the night, Vaughn. All right. But he has a good back and forth. Like Rob does a good job of engaging with these people while at the same time, letting them know we should not listen to you guys because you want to throw these big fits over everything that Trump does and downplay or just ignore everything that Democrats do. And at some point, why should we take you seriously? It's something that I've been thinking. Rob is on the same page, and he's telling these lefties right to their face. And I am all here for it. There is a link in the description for the whole video if you want to see the rest of this. It's also on Rob Noerr's channel as well. Subscribe to both Raging Tomatoes and Rob Noerr's channel. They both put out good stuff.